this thing on? Yeah, it's on. Whew. Good morning. Okay. So I don't know what time it is. What time is it? Oh, wow, I'm not that late. Well, I knew we'd start a little bit later because of the reception and everything. So I wanted to give people a little bit of time. And I have no idea what the other priests have talked about because, I'm usually over at St. Timothy's. So I'm going to start with the last part of the baptismal covenant. So will you proclaim, by the way, I'm Rosie. So I work part-time here, as most of y'all know. Some of y'all may not, because I know we have a lot of new people here. And I spend part of my time here and part of my time at St. Timothy's, and then part of my time at First Stop, which is a community day center for the homeless, where I do pastoral care, outreach, and worship there in the camps and at the day center. So what I'm going to talk today about is outreach, community engagement, and serving. And so I got the last part of our baptismal covenant and the last two parts of the baptismal covenant. Just kidding, the last three parts. So I'm going to start with, will you proclaim by word and example the good news of God and Christ? And we all say what? That's right, y'all know this. It's like you've done it before. So I was looking through some of my writing, and I found this piece that I wrote a couple months ago. It says, I'm writing this as I sit at the warming center with about 20 of my homeless friends and 3 chihuahuas. There is coffee brewing and hot chocolate is being drunk. There might have been some other things being drunk as well. I have no idea. Actually, I did, because I had to throw it out. Folks are playing cards, doing crossword puzzles, and watching a movie. They were watching Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, one of my favorite movies. Blankets are en route from parishioners, and meals will be brought also from parishioners. Folks have signed up to help with the breakdown on Saturday. This is how it's been in my outreach ministry. This is how outreach ministry has gone for the past few years. Any project that I present to the church, there is support and an outpouring of love. This year at Nativity has participated in countless supply drives and activities throughout the city. We have been the hands of Christ, not only in writing checks to support numerous nonprofit organizations, but we have also been the hands and feet of Christ by going outside the church and being engaged in the community. Thank you for your love. I think I wrote this maybe for the parish report. I don't know. Y'all tell me, because you probably read it, hopefully. It's kind of a blur, because after that warming center, I got the COVID. So every good story starts with, I think, what had happened was. Those of you that are teachers know that your students often come to you and say, what had happened was. I see some teachers nodding. And when I was a teacher, that's what my students would tell me. So what had happened was, when I got this job, I sent a text to Father Michael, and it had like a little blurb in it about a news story in Savannah of a priest friend of mine working out in the homeless community. And I said, hey, this looks really cool. Can we do that? And he texted me back and he said, do you feel called to do that? And I said, yeah. And he goes, okay, let's talk to the bishop. And it was, more or less, that's pretty much how it happened. And there was, probably some budget meetings and lots of talking with the bishop and us talking, and this word I like to use, discerning. And so that's a lot of how I got here in the job that I'm doing. So will you proclaim by word and example the good news of God and Christ. And so with Nativity, with God's help, all of us are doing this work, this warming center work. And oftentimes, when I'll post something or you'll talk to me, you'll say, oh, you're doing such good work. But it is the work of everybody in this room. It is the work of everybody over there in the church and the sacristy. It is the work of everybody, because we're all doing this work. It's beautiful work. It is the work that Nativity is doing, because without us reimagining how we're proclaiming the love of God, without us reimagining that it takes more than monetary support. Don't get me wrong, it is important. Monetary support, having a good outreach budget is important. But getting behind it with encouraging text, with encouraging cards and things like that, without saying, hey, what else do you need? Do you need more volunteers? Without saying, do you need more supplies? Or just showing up to church on Sunday. That's how we're doing this. That's how we're being active in this part of the baptismal covenant, by proclaiming this. And it makes me so proud when I see and I hate it when I use that word just, when I see someone from our Nativity community share a post of the work that we're doing. Because that is part of proclaiming our baptismal covenant, to showing the world, like, we are doing more. We are doing more outside of the church. So that is part of proclaiming God's word. So, will you seek and serve Christ in all persons, loving your neighbor as yourself? And all God's people said, I will, with God's help. So last Sunday, we read, I give you a new commandment, that you love one another just as I have loved you. You should also love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples. So I cheated a little bit on this, because last Sunday, of course, we read that. And so I had to preach last Sunday at St. Timothy's, and I wrote about this. Right before this commandment was given, Judas left the table, and Jesus knew that what Judas had in his heart. Then after that commandment, so many J's. Jesus and Peter spoke, and Jesus knew that Peter would deny him. Betrayal and denial. Christ called disciples that he knew would betray faith, just as I have loved you when you sank, just as I have loved you through your lack of hope, just as I have loved you through your ambition to sit on my right hand and my left side, just as I have loved you through your denial, just as I have loved you for you. By this loved, acceptance, affirmation, hope, welcoming, by this change of perspective, by this love for one another, you are my disciples. This is my new commandment. So will you seek and serve Christ in all persons, loving your neighbor as yourself? This is one of the hard ones, like, man, it's hard. It's hard to be out there with other people that are different than us, right? Like, go out there and there's felons, there's people that have to register as sex offenders. That is one of the hardest things to wrap my mind around. So looking around, I don't have any children in the room. We have a lot of registered sex offenders that are in the homeless camps. And it's scary, but they're children of God, and they deserve our love, and our outreach, our ministry, our welcome, just as much as anybody else. And I did not realize the numbers until the past election, because it was my privilege that blinded me. It was my blind spot. And I was like, I had a group come in, and we were like, oh yeah, we're going to get people registered to vote. This is great, right? That's a great idea. And I said, yeah, how many of y'all are not registered to vote? So we got some people registered to vote, and then I started going up to people and I said, hey, are you can you vote? Do you want to get registered to vote? And they said, I can't. And they had lost their privilege to vote, their right to vote. And so more conversations would happen from there. And talk about brokenness, talk about sorrow, talk about hurt. And it's a lot. But it's part of it. It's part of what we're called to do, is to love them as Christ loves them. And I go back to the gospel reading from last week, and who Christ called as Christ's disciples. He called people that he knew would betray him, that he knew would deny him. And they had listened to every single sermon. They were with him all along the way. And so when I think about being out there and who we are called to serve, we are called to serve just as many broken people as we are to people that are sitting right inside of Nativity, that are doctors and lawyers and teachers, and that live in Twickenham. You know, like we're just as much we are called to serve the people that are living in the camps and are registered sex offenders. And it is scary work, and it is scary to open ourselves up to that brokenness, but it is part of our baptismal covenant. And the good news about that is that we aren't alone in it, is that we get to say, I will, but with whose help? So, will you strive for justice and peace amongst all people and respect the dignity of every human being? This one gets me every time. Yeah, I could just go on and on about this one forever. I don't think there is a baptism or a time that we renew our baptismal covenant that I don't want to just tear up and cry about this. It makes me so proud that we say every human being, the dignity of every human being. And what does that look like? I really don't like pickles. I just don't. Like, my husband, Justin, he knows, like, a pickle on my plate, like when that juice gets on it, it is so annoying. Like, it ruins a sandwich. Anybody else in here doesn't like pickles? Father Michael? Yeah, I know my husband. Like, put your hand down, Justin. And mayonnaise, like, I love some mayonnaise, but, like, Justin doesn't. Like, it will ruin a sandwich for him. Like, that's my preference. That is my preference. And it's okay for me not to like pickles. It is perfectly okay. I was serving one time at a shelter, and they had ham sandwiches. And just going through the line, we were passing out the food, and someone said, I don't eat pork. And they said, do you have anything else? And I said, no, this is what we're serving today. Take it or leave it. And that interaction, you know, that I witnessed, I was like, That's not okay. This is the one meal that this person is getting today. And there was no backup offered. There was no, I'm sorry, can I give you an extra bag of chips? Can I give you some extra fruit? But just like, this person could be Jewish, they could be Muslim, that dignity that wasn't considered for them. Because, like, I don't like pickles, like, it's those little things. It is those little things. But more than that, what I find in the work that I'm doing here, and the work that we are doing on a larger scale through Nativity, it is such important work. Recently, I have found, I think about blind spots a lot, and that our homeless population often don't have funerals. When you die, and you're taken to Potter's Field. If nobody claims you, you don't have a service. A woman, Tammy, I'd known her for years. She and her common-law husband, Philip, they lived out in the camp or in abandoned houses here and there and everywhere. And their clients at First Stop, sweet couple. She could be kind of mean sometimes, but, known them. And she got cancer. I was diagnosed with cancer, and it was so far gone that there's nothing that anybody could do for her. And she had no emergency contacts in the hospital. And since they were not legally married, Philip was not on her emergency contacts or anything like that. And so when she was taken by ambulance from the camps to the hospital about a month ago, and when she passed, nobody contacted Philip. He didn't have a phone. So he started asking me as soon as I got to First Stop on Monday, because she went to the hospital on Saturday, if I could find out what happened to Tammy, that he had called the hospital and they said that she wasn't there. And so I called the hospital. No, she wasn't there. I called the other hospital. She wasn't there. I called the other hospital. She wasn't there. I called funeral homes, all the main ones. I called the coroner. She wasn't there. It took 2 weeks to finally find out from a hospice that she went to hospice and stayed 1 day and she passed away. So we finally had her funeral out in the camps, without her remains, of course, because they had tracked down her son, and so her son was able to get a hold of her remains. But I could tell y'all story after story about people just being lost in the system, in the camps. And so these are things that we're trying to find solutions for, trying to find ways to negotiate the blind spots, to give that dignity to people. We are very privileged. I know that if I go to the hospital, my husband will come see me, that my husband can call up there, that he has access to a telephone, that I will have a service if I die, when I die, that I get to plan my service. So these are things that we know. So it's hard work, the justice and the dignity, but it's good work, and it's different kind of work. But finding these little niches, there's joy in it, because we were at the service. It was so joyful. We sat and we had the regular right to burial, Holy Eucharist, all that. Amy Kennedy printed up our order, worship for it, and everybody was just so happy. They were like, thank you for doing this. And we were in the camps. We were at Derrick Street South, aka the Slab, with Eucharist and everything. And yeah, we had refreshments after. We had ice cream sandwiches. Because I tried to think, like, what is it that my homeless friends don't get? Ice cream. Like, they get bread and cookies all day long from Manna House, but not ice cream. So we had ice cream after, and I think the funniest thing I'll tell you is that my friend Rashad, he had never had real wine with communion, and I told Sarah Little this. I don't see Sarah here, but he wanted to be the last one in line for communion because he wanted to kill it. Yeah. So I'm volunteering him for Altar Guild here at Nativity. So y'all can deal with him. So, but it is the little things that if we get involved in relationships with those that we are serving, not just, I use that word just, serving food is important. Donating clothes, donating socks is important. But being in relationship with the people that eat the food, that wear the clothes, that wear the socks is important too. Because there you get to understand the needs and the people that you're respecting. So, I don't know what time it is. Anybody know what time it is? How am I doing? Okay. So I think I will shut up for a second. Oh, one more thing. I have these wonderful CPE students, clinical pastoral education students that come down from Swanee or other seminary programs that hang out with me throughout the year. And one new thing that we start this year, this summer we start it, because First Stop is rebuilding. And that means that they won't have laundry services. We have coordinated with the laundromat in Kennemore Square, right over there by the Salvation Army. And my CPE students are going to be there Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And we're calling it the Suds and Buds program because our friends from First Stop will be going over there to do their laundry on those days and sitting with them, having good quality time, pastoral conversations, and getting to know them and doing their laundry with them. And so we've worked out this program for them. But they are only with me for so long. I will be needing volunteers to step in and hang out and do laundry in the morning with folks. So that'll be Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from like 9 to 11:30. So if you're interested in hanging out at the laundromat, let me know. So now I'm going to open it up for questions. Yes.
So are you the only priest in the diocese doing this kind of work, or do other big cities like Birmingham have something like this going on, or Montgomery, or?
So, yes. The Abbey is still going on in Birmingham, but they are not as involved as this. Some churches have similar things, but not in Alabama. Yeah. There is not a job description for us. Yeah. I have to say, like, it's so cool to see how many pieces are working together. So like Thrive, which is one of the organizations that we support, how that partners with First Stop, partners with Inner City Learning Center, um, and um, community free dental clinic, like how all of these places are tying in. And so getting to know the folks from all of those places, I can just be like, oh, hey, wait, did you talk to Thrive? Let me email this person over there, and so we can get them at this event, and then give this contact to this caseworker over at First Stop. And so it's like this beautiful synergy that's happening. So not only like being this pastoral presence, like for our homeless friends, but working with caseworkers, knowing them, and then knowing teachers at Inner City Learning Center, and the folks on outreach at Thrive. So it's just like it's working. These things are working. Yes.
Tell people how you work with those who have gotten into that place, but they seek to get out of it, and what all you do to enable them to find a home and help them learn different ways from balancing a checkbook to whatever. It seems so important.
So we have caseworkers at First Stop, and so a lot of times if I see someone new that's coming into First Stop, I'll kind of greet them, tell them who I am, tell them my role there, because it's great that I don't work at First Stop, because I tell them, I'm like, I'm Switzerland, I'm just neutral in here. Because if they get annoyed or something at First Stop, like they didn't have what they needed, they wanted a tent or something, I'll just be like, I'm sorry, I recognize that you're mad, but I can't help you. What brought you here? I can open up a conversation and talk to them about case management, talk to them about other services that they have, and then keep on checking in with them. Hey, did you see your caseworker? How did that appointment with the person from recovery go? Did you get in touch with Wellstone? And come at it from just like a very loving way. And then if they get housed, so many of y'all have come to me and said, hey, I've got some furniture. Do you need it? What do you need? And then I'll put something out where y'all will contact me because you're getting a new sofa or new dining room table, or you're shutting down a house somewhere, and then we'll pass that out. And that's been one of my favorite things the past few months, is that I haven't had to deliver furniture myself. Is that I've seen the congregation here just taking things to people, and that level of comfort with y'all interacting with the newly housed has been beautiful. Like, I love it. I absolutely love it. So just give yourself a big round of applause for delivering furniture and housing stuff on your own, because that just makes me so happy. And it just, I'll get texts from them. They'll say, I love this. It was so wonderful. They were so nice, And so that relationship is really wonderful. So that's part of it. And then them checking in once they're housed with their caseworkers. They'll work on budget. We've got a couple people over at Redstone Arsenal that help them open up checking accounts and things like that. Yeah, I don't know if that was exactly what you wanted. So, okay. Mhm.
What do you do with people? I've developed a relationship with a homeless man in Fireplace.
Mhm.
And I tried to help him. I was going to put him in my car and bring him to First Stop, and you said, oh, no, 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 no. And you suggested buying him bus tickets.
Mhm.
So I did. I wrote down the bus stops and how you get there and everything. And then I checked back with him
Yeah, some people are going to live on the streets. Some people will live on the streets.
In the tent cities,
Hmm.
are tents provided for everyone there? How is it put together?
Um,
are there toilets there, or what is sort of the structure?
hang on one second, because I'll answer that question, but I'm going to finish your.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It is one of the hardest things to do, because we know that in our families, is that sometimes you have, a parent or a sister, who just is going to act a certain way despite your best efforts, and you just have to let it go. I mean, that's what boundaries are all about, and love them anyway. And I, I still show up in the camps, and there will be people that I've been seeing out there who are still smoking crack, that are going to smoke crack until the day they die. People, but I'm going to love them anyway. Um, I will. They know that I will give them a resource to Ross Recovery. When they ask for it, they know that they can get that from me. They know I will pray with them. Um, I will pray with them having a crack pipe in their hand. And the next day, I will still pray with them. And that is okay, because it is their choice, you know? Um, and that's okay. Yeah, we can't fix them. We can't fix them. No, we cannot fix them. And like I said, it's just like having a loved one in our family. We can't fix them. Golly, I wish I could fix my mom and her cats. She just got another one, but can't do anything about that. So, but we can pray about it. We leave it up to God. So, tents. So people will work with the community resource officer, which is a job of a police officer, and they help litigate all the ins and outs of tents and the camps. And again, that's one thing I pray about, because that is above my pay grade. And First Stop passes out tents, or they can get their own from another resource. So, yeah. So, yes, ma'am. Oh yeah, yeah. There are no toilets in the camps. That is one reason I have really good boots. And we have toilets at First Stop. Um, yeah. Yep. Just let that sink in. We. Nope. Nope. They bring in their own water. Um, yep. Now. So I'll tell y'all. It's funny. It's funny. I don't know, but on Saturdays, a lot of time, and Sundays, a lot of groups will go out to the camps to minister, you know, and to be a witness. And they won't have met people. They'll just be like, "Oh, let me go pass out some food. I've got an abundance, and I'm gonna go pass out some Bibles and some chicken or something like that." And the folks will be so annoyed. They'll just be like, "I wonder, how am I going to store a bunch of raw chicken or a bunch of hamburger helpers?" Like, I've gone out there and they've got just boxes and boxes of hamburger helpers, things like that. And so um, I'll say, when we get tired of people coming out here, we'll just start burning plastic. And I'm like, y'all really? And they're like, no, it makes people go away. Like, smell of burning plastic. So they're like, yeah, when we've had enough visitors in the camps, we burn plastic. And that's fair enough. It's like this is their house, their housing community. So one thing I do want to switch gears a little bit is to discuss the Pep Squad, because going out into the camps and everything like that, that's not for the faint of heart. But being out in the nativity courtyard, cheering on people, that's something we can all do and we can all participate in. I don't see Jill here, but I do see Heather here. One idea that we've come up with is to do a Pep Squad for races and runs and parades and things like that. So for like the Inner City Learning Center Give Back Run, that comes right past here. For the St. Patrick's Day Parade, for the Pride Parade, for all these great parades that go right past our church, we can be here for that. We have a beautiful courtyard that we can sit out here. I know for a Veterans Day Parade, we can be here and be present, cheering these people on, having great fellowship and fun, and like be inviting, just the same way that I'm inviting people and being pastoral to the folks out in the camps and in the homeless community and saying, hey, God loves you. We love you. Then we can do that right here in our church and then be able to see our church friends, and welcome people into our church. We're not just this, and I can say just in that term, we're not just this old church that is all stove up and nobody can come in. We can be right outside and say, y'all, come on, be a part of it. We're cheering you on. We're happy that you're outside. We're outside here with you. Keep running, but when you're done running, come to church on Sunday. So, yeah. So that's part of all of our baptismal covenant, isn't just saying, I will with God's help, but actually doing it. So, and I appreciate y'all doing it. So.